Yes.
Hey,
Good to see you.
how are you? You too. Long time.
I know, 2.5 years.
I know.
Right now, Intersected is in a publication format, but we're a racial equity project, and so we're hoping to expand and do even more things, maybe moving into the summertime. But for now, we're doing either guest submissions or written posts or interviews like this. So thank you for being willing.
Thank you. I was surprised when you reached out. It's very surprised. So hopefully whatever I have to say here will be beneficial. So
yeah, I think so. I would love, well, I guess first of all, before I want to ask about Nyuki, but before we get to that point, do you want to give me kind of a little bio about yourself that the readers might be interested to know?
a bio. Theo. I go by Theo, but actually the full name is Inani Theonest, and a child of refugees in this country. I'm the 8th child out of 10 kids. That's what actually Minani means. But I don't know. I don't have much to say about me. I'm married, and I'm working. I don't know if you ever knew Community College of Aurora.
I had forgotten. Yeah, what's your position there? Do you like it?
Yeah, data management. I work for the adulthood education department.
Nice.
And I manage all the data that come in through that department. Prior to that, too, I was working there. I was working as achievement coach, another word of advisor, I guess. And I was focusing on IT students and IT certificates. That's a little bit about me.
So tell me, how did Nyuki begin? What's the origin story?
Origin story of Nyuki?
Yeah, for the podcast.
So, the guy I do it with is my friend from, I don't know if you watch this after episode, he explained himself that he's from Congo. He's been my friend since high school, since 2008. So the first year we came here, and we were all in South High School, which is like one of the most international high school at the time. I don't know about now. And so we've been friends like that, and then there were other 2 friends, so we 4. And so there are times where we'll hang out, and we still do it, and we'll have these very, very interesting conversations. And it's just like this conversation are very informative. I think it would be better if people heard these conversations. And then it was just like, people should hear this conversation. And I'd always have this idea, there's need to be this platform of especially in our community, because most of the time when you're talking to people, we literally kind of having the same conversation, but we have same idea, but it never leaves the house. I don't know if you get what I'm saying. You visit somebody, you're having the same conversation, but then you also it will be beneficial if more people could hear it, see, and it will advance the community. So, it was just like, this conversation should be heard. We should do something for people to hear these conversations. And then, so he actually decided, and he started recording a podcast by himself. And for me, I didn't do it by myself because I have this weird like I can't do things by myself. I feel better when somebody else is there. So
I agree.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, I can't. Like I used to even record on my phone, and I would listen to myself. Like it would sound better if somebody was here, like with me, like having a conversation where it doesn't look like a program. So he recorded, I think, 2 episodes on his thing, his podcast. And then, so I reached out to him. I was like, look, let's do this together and actually get better equipment. And like, he didn't hesitate because that's something he wanted to do. And then, it went from there. Like, people need to hear certain conversations, and most conversations, we are shy from them. And many times it's due, for instance, if you right price conversation is, as young people, we are afraid to kind of I won't say confront like the older generation, but like confront the older generation, because there's this type of, like, if somebody's older than you can't really challenge them.
Mm-hmm.
And we disagree with that, so we're like, okay, let's. And also being involved in the community is like, you know, the younger generation are not given that platform, so we're like, okay, let's just create our own. And then that's Nyuki. We're on episode 7 now.
Yeah. I've listened to a couple. Yeah. What would you say is the mission of Nyuki?
So the mission is, I remember when we came up with the name, the prior name was very simple, like, oh, let's talk about it. Whatever issue we have, let's talk about it. But then he came up with, because the whole intention is to make people feel uncomfortable. It's like, what makes people uncomfortable? So we're like, oh, a bee can make people uncomfortable. When it's staying, and you have to get out of your comfort zone to, So, and he was like, okay, what is the Swahili word for bee? I was like, oh, don't worry, it's Nyuki. And then, yeah.
I'm curious, as a Burundian American, what are some structural barriers, structural injustices that you've noticed facing the Burundian and Congolese communities?
So, that's huge. So, that's a huge question and topic. But one, as soon as we arrive here, is very shocking. Not only for parents but also for us. And 2, we are put in the system right away, and we are expected to adjust. We have no choice, and that's one of the biggest challenge, especially for our generation. There's that cross-culture experience that we have, and you start fighting with your identity, because at the end of the day, when you start getting used to going to school and making friends from all over the world, and one thing is you have to go back home, and your parents are not having the same experience as you. So, and they trying to raise you as they're used to you, and then, so when you get home, when you're not aware of it, you have a conflict of, okay, should I switch to my Burundian identity, or the one I experience outside is better? Which one? So it's very, very shocking. For instance, for me, I remember I started reading a lot, the Bible included, and I realized I disagree with many things our tradition and culture said, and that's that's something I'm still fighting with, because things that used to be normal, I kind of disagree with them, most of them. And one being the treatment of women in our community. No question asked. They're treated as second-class citizens. I have got to the point where I acknowledge my male men privilege in society. That too. And then there's this, when we get home again, I'm treated differently. But when I go outside with my sisters or other women, we are doing the same thing. We're going to school. We having the same amount of homework. But when we get home, my sister or the woman is expected to go straight in the kitchen to prepare food. I'm expected to come back at any time I want. So yeah, it's very huge. It's a very, very huge topic. But the injustice is still there, to the point where for our community, personally, I believe, where if you kind of challenge their belief, then they see you as you're lost. You have gone to this country and you allow them to get at your head, or you think you're smarter just because you went to school. You think you're better, but really the only thing you want to do is be heard and have a conversation about how you're feeling. And also that go to my point, when we get here, we are taught to express ourselves. Now, for me, I knew how to adjust it. Like, okay, I can express myself here, or I can let it go, which is not good in the long run. But our younger siblings, because they don't remember much of back home and the life they know is here, our parents have a difficult deal with that, because they're expressing themselves literally about everything, and most of them do not like that. They either see it as disrespect, or you can't talk back, and especially if it's your parents or anybody older than you can't express how you feel. So yeah, it's a lot. It's a huge topic. And
I have done some research on life chances of refugees in the United States, like sociological term, life chances. And there's differences between like Black African refugees and then other refugees who have lighter skin tones, and it doesn't matter, based on how much English you know. It's not actually, there's no meritocracy there. So with having that in mind, being like a Black refugee or a Black American, being both in that position, not African American, but still Black in this country. What in your Burundian and Congolese community, because I know you've married to a Congolese woman too, what have you noticed any different types of that kind of structural level discrimination? That's why I was saying housing, employment, that type of barriers coming to the United States and adjusting here and growing up here.
Yeah, the injustice are very hard to ignore for anybody with Black skin. I didn't experience it. I haven't experienced it personally. Is there, but also I remember I have heard many people say that, I think before or during the time when they come here, especially Africans, most of them are refugees. They thought to, so they have been given, they are given this image of Black Americans. Now they're not good, and I think so how they're not good. So when we come here, we already have this assumption about them, and
where does that come from? Where does that?
So I remember there were seminars that they would do before you come, and they would teach you a little bit about the life here, and also some parents implanted that in their kids, like, oh, they're no good, and is it there all the time where and then I think I also noticed this conflict between African American and African. Is a very huge one, because we Africans use, we know where we're from, all those things, which I think is very hurtful. And then the African Americans also have this assumption or this image about Africans, how we are civilized. So how we're very uncivilized. We have different lions or animals, spirits. Like I said, I never experienced that, but as like many people mentioned, no one has ever said to me like, oh, I didn't know you could speak all those things. But it's there. It's very hard to ignore. And then
one time, one of my Kenyan friends, someone asked him, like, so how do you know English? So Kenya's an English-speaking country.
Yeah, imagine. I think it has a lot to do with not being educated. And I'm speaking about like doing your own research and just read whatever is available out there. And you mentioned something about housing.
Yeah, we can go back to that in a second. I had a question. You said the seminars that were being done beforehand were instilling these racial biases. You said the seminars before.
Before we come here, there are seminars where they teach you about the life here, and some people say that specific thing was mentioned, like, oh, be careful with this kind of people when you get there, do this. And then also, and these organizations that welcome refugees, they do seminars too, but I didn't hear them say anything like that. I can't speak for anybody, but there is the assumption, like, okay, these are good people and these are bad people.
Yeah. Who's leading the ones back like in the camps or in the towns before you travel? Who's leading those? Like, what curriculum is that?
So Americans, there were Americans that were leading that and have like translators and stuff, or it will be like their own people, our own people they will put in charge and just teach them, show them like this is what you're going to present.
Yeah, not like a particular organization or?
Yeah, it was an organization, but all the information would come from an American.
Mm-hmm. White American or?
White American. So when that happens, some parents also believe that and then put it in their kids' head, and so it's a very sad reality.
Anyone outside like the Burundian community, what is something that you wish they knew about the Burundian community?
What I wish people know about Burundians, we are people, we're educated, we just like everybody, we have a story to tell, and we want the best for not only our country, but where we live, for our community and outside our community. So we want to see our people succeed, and we want to see our kids succeed, just typical like life goal. We have that. It's a very beautiful country, and that I know. A very beautiful culture, very beautiful people, outside and inside. Just like any other country or any other place, there are those that we don't agree on everything. Right, like I said, that's it. I was expecting that. So, but that we just, just want to have the same goals as everyone to succeed.
What are some supports that you've noticed? Either two questions that you've noticed or that you would like to see that exist for Burundian refugees, or again, Congolese refugees. And our communities are very close. So I'm curious if there are good supports in place, or what you would like to see change.
So for me, one thing I would like to see change is adjustment and adaptation. Because, like I said, when we come here, most of us are very shocked, and we kind of have a conflict of letting go of certain things that we used to, and those things can hold us back. And literally, that's one of the biggest problems we have. Most of the community is trying to adapt. It's okay to adapt, because I personally believe that culture and traditions are supposed to innovate. I don't believe in staying 100 years ago, and I think I don't care what culture you go to, they're kind of the same in a way. Really, people just want respect and be loved and be heard. And that's kind of, the main thing. Instead of, they're a good part of the culture to keep, but if anything that's going to hold me back to experience life or to explore life, then I don't consider that as a culture for me. And that's what I try to live with, and for my people to I think when you try to help people or work with people, I think you have to be very, very patient. You have to be very patient. There are those that are going to be quick to adapt or to understand you. There are those that will take their time. There are those that will complain first, and there are those that would never let it go. So you have to be very patient, and also sometimes accept that some people can't change. They don't want to change. They don't, they have these trust issues, and most of the time is their life experience they had. So,
and kind of like you mentioned culturally, there are things that I would change, and there's also really good things. I think a lot of what you were mentioning in your podcast and here about treatment of women, the way I see that played out in the church, is one of the things that I would change.
No, I very much disagree with it, and I hope to have a chance to say it to our leaders. I very much disagree with it because. Like I said, for me, when I started reading and also reading the Bible, I realized actually the Bible disagred with most of the culture, and but we have this conflict, between our culture and the Bible, and I 100% disagree with it. I can't defend it anytime if anybody came, and but I can defend it using the Bible. So things that the tradition in our churches is very, very culturally, and tradition is not biblically.
Yeah, and I feel that even in white churches too. I grew up in white churches. I spent the majority of my life in white churches, not entirely, but the majority. And it looks different culturally, but there's a lot of similarities. I think the way I grew up enabled me to fit in very well at our church.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I guess that's a positive thing about it, but in terms of like how to dress and stuff, like what's considered modest and all of those kind of like surface level things.
Yeah, because I see it, as men, we understand our weakness, but we try to blame women for it because, like, oh, you should dress. We tell women to dress a certain way so we can feel comfortable. It's not even about them. Even if they're not comfortable, we don't care. And I remember was reading this book. It mentioned something like, men's weakness or my weakness should be women suffering. Mm-hmm. So I learned that in college, and that have been with me. I don't know, and try to go by that, to notice when I'm trying to make it about me instead of about the person, because really they don't have any power of my weakness. If I really believe in the God that I claim to believe, So when I'm blaming them for my weakness, then that's just oppression. Yeah.
I'm so glad you recognize that. Like that. Yeah, just from the things I've heard from you saying and posting and saying, I feel like you're a trustworthy person. Like, I don't know if we're on the same page about everything, but like you can, I just hope so.
Yeah, and like I really, I can't be out here like, oh, I'm different from this man. Like I have my own bias, like my own man privilege that I'm benefiting from. I'm also contributing, the patriarchy of, the whole system. So I recognize that, but I think just because I'm benefiting from it, it doesn't mean I should say something about it.
Right. Yeah. Like me being white, I can't change that. And a lot of the things that come with that, a lot of the things I can't change, but I have a choice of like how I act and what I stand up for, stand against. So there's,
Yeah, and also it's funny you say that because, one thing for Black Americans or Black community is, it's good to see white people that want to change or to change the system, or men that want to change the system. But the issue become when we try to tell the victims, instead of me talking to my counterpart like, hey, this is what we're doing wrong, or this is where we're going wrong, this is how we at least can do something about it, instead of going to women and like, hey, you guys should behave this way, you guys should, maybe you should be nice to, the police officer, you won't be shot, but
doesn't work.
Yeah, so, and instead of like, hey, actually, they're not the problem. We are the problem. And I think that's like one of the hardest pill to swallow, because you actually don't want to lose that privilege. But you make it not about you, but the whole system, the whole population.
Yeah.
And that's one issue I have. Every time, no offense, but sometimes, like some white people, when they come to me like, oh yeah, you guys should do this. Like, no. I didn't get killed because I was doing, they didn't get killed because they were doing something. The majority of them is because of how they look. So you should, you cannot tell me anything that will prevent me from being killed. But you can talk to your side, and maybe, hopefully, somebody will listen.
Its goal is like to make racial equity more accessible, and so that's why we're talking with different people in different communities, different issues. We've done different things on housing before, but that's, it's had a certain focus. We've done food security a little bit, But there's so much to dig in with all of these topics. And I think like the racial and immigrant, like those lenses together we haven't really done too much in that vein yet, but that's, a whole other layer of complexity of interacting in this country and experience in this country. So this is, I think, helpful to start giving insight to that for anyone who's reading, whether they're in the community or in a different community, and they can go from there. Well, thank you.
Thank you.